In the lively commotion of a bustling city shopping center, Jay, a resourceful and resilient runaway, navigated the crowd with a singular focus. His target was a popular electronics store where the latest video game release beckoned him. With a blend of stealth and desperation, he deftly slipped the game into his jacket, but just as he turned to leave, his escape was thwarted by a firm hand on his shoulder. A security guard, embodying authority and discipline, had caught him in the act. Caught and fearful, Jay braced himself for the consequences, his mind racing for a way out of the predicament. However, before he could utter a word, an unexpected intervention came in the form of a well-dressed woman who approached with a confident stride. "Ethan, there you are," she exclaimed, her voice laced with a concoction of frustration and relief. She turned to the guard, skillfully weaving a tale of a wayward son prone to unintentional theft, apologizing for the trouble caused. The security guard, now hesitating, released Jay, warning him against future misdemeanors. As the guard disappeared into the crowd, Jay found himself alone with his unexpected savior, confusion and suspicion swirling within him. "Why did you help me?" Jay asked, his voice tinged with wariness. The woman, introducing herself as Lynn, regarded him with a mysterious smile. "I'm Lynn, and I believe we can be of use to each other. Ethan, or should I say, Jay, how about we discuss this over a meal? You look like you could use one." Intrigued and driven by necessity, Jay followed Lynn, stepping into a narrative far more complex than a simple act of shoplifting. Unbeknownst to him, this was the beginning of an unusual journey that would challenge his understanding of family, trust, and identity. In a quaint cafe, removed from the bustling chaos of the shopping center, Lynn and Jay sat across from each other. The contrast between them was stark. Lynn's elegant demeanor and polished appearance versus Jay's guarded and wary posture, a clear product of life on the streets. "You're quite perceptive, Ethan." "Or Jay," Lynn began, her eyes scrutinizing him with a mix of interest and calculation. "I have an unusual proposition for you." Jay, still on edge but intrigued, responded cautiously. "What kind of proposition?" Lynn leaned in, her voice low and steady. "I need someone to pretend to be my son. Just for a week. My husband, Michael, and I have to attend a series of events where the presence of a family, particularly a son, would be advantageous for us." Jay's frown deepened, reflecting his confusion and skepticism. "Pretend to be your son. Why? And why would I agree to do that?" Lynn's answer was direct and tempting. "Because it's an easy job that comes with food, a place to stay, and a cash reward at the end of the week. You'll just have to play the part." Well, Jay weighed the offer. The prospect of a week off the streets with the promise of food and money was more than he had hoped for in his immediate future. Yet the proposition was bizarre, and he couldn't shake off a sense of unease about what was being asked of him. "Why me, though? You could find anyone for this," Jay questioned, his eyes narrowing. Lynn's response was pragmatic. "You have a look that could pass for my son. Plus, you need this opportunity just as much as I do," she said, a hint of underlying truth in her tone. After a moment of contemplation driven by both necessity and curiosity, Jay, or now Ethan, agreed to the charade. Little did he know that this decision would plunge him into a world of opulence, complexity, and familial intrigue that was as unfamiliar as it was dangerous. Jay, now assuming the role of Ethan, followed Lynn to her car, a sleek model that spoke of wealth and refinement. As they drove through the city, the scenery shifted from the cramped, graffiti-laden streets Jay knew to the manicured lawns and sprawling estates of the city's affluent outskirts. They pulled into the driveway of a grandiose house, a stark contrast to the rough shelters Jay had grown accustomed to. Inside, Lynn guided Jay through the expansive hallways adorned with art and opulence. The house was more a display of wealth than a home. Lynn's instructions were clear and precise. outlining the expectations and rules of his impersonation. You'll attend functions with us, engage in conversations as needed, and most importantly, not stray from the story we've created for you, she instructed. Jay's new room was a luxurious suite, a far cry from any place he had ever slept. The softness of the bed and the private bathroom were foreign comforts to him. As he settled in, a mix of excitement and apprehension about the coming week filled him. The next morning, Jay met Lynn's husband, Michael. Michael was cordial but distant, offering a brief handshake and a scrutinizing gaze. It was evident that Michael was part of the plan but not particularly invested in its execution. Lynn and Michael coached Jay on his background story. Ethan, their son, who had been living abroad with relatives due to some vague, unspoken family tensions. Jay found the deception unnerving but played along, driven by the promised reward and a growing curiosity about this unusual family. The week unfolded with a series of events, cocktail parties, charity galas, and business dinners. Jay navigated these with a mix of Lynn's coaching and his instinctive street smarts. He was introduced as Ethan, receiving nods and smiles from the city's elite, unaware of his true identity. During these events, Jay observed the dynamics of Lynn and Michael's relationship. Their interactions were rehearsed and devoid of warmth, like two actors playing their parts. It became clear that their marriage was more a strategic alliance than a romantic union. Amidst the charade, Jay experienced moments of unexpected connection with Lynn. She occasionally let her guard down, revealing glimpses of genuine emotion and vulnerability. In those moments, Jay saw her not just as the orchestrator of this facade, but as a woman trapped in her own golden cage. One evening, after a particularly extravagant event, Jay found himself alone with Lynn in the aftermath of the party's departure. The house was quiet, a stark contrast to the earlier facade of laughter and music. "Why are you doing this?" Jay asked, his tone a mix of curiosity and concern. Lynn sighed, her gaze lost in the remnants of the night. "Sometimes, we find ourselves in lives we never planned. This arrangement with Michael, it was supposed to be a temporary solution, but temporary solutions have a way of becoming permanent." Jay listened, his initial judgment of Lynn shifting. Behind the opulence and orchestrated smiles lay a world of unfulfilled dreams and silent compromises. The week was nearing its end, and Jay, or Ethan, had played his part convincingly. Yet, as he prepared to leave this world of pretense, he felt an unexpected pang of regret. The experience had opened his eyes to the complexities of life beyond the streets. The realization that wealth and status did not equate to happiness or freedom. On his last day, Lynn handed Jay an envelope. The agreed. Upon payment. "You've done well, Ethan." "Or should I say, Jay," she said, a hint of sadness in her voice. Jay took the envelope, feeling the weight of the cash inside. "Thank you, Lynn. This week. It was something else." As Jay walked away from the grand house, he turned back for a moment. He saw Lynn standing at the doorway watching him leave. In that brief glance, there was a mutual acknowledgement of the unlikely bond they had formed. A connection forged in deception, but grounded in a shared understanding of life's unexpected turns. Jay, back on the streets with the envelope in his pocket, felt a change within him. The week as Ethan had been a detour in his life's journey, a brief sojourn in a world not his own. Yet, it had given him a new perspective on what family could mean, and what belonging truly felt like. As he walked away, the chapter of Ethan closed behind him, but the lessons and experiences of that week lingered, shaping the path of the young man who had once been just a runaway. Jay, now Ethan, began his unusual week by immersing himself in the daily routines of Lynn and Michael's affluent life. Each morning started with a lavish breakfast in the dining room, where the table was set with an array of gourmet foods that Jay had only ever dreamed of. Lynn and Michael, while maintaining a facade of a normal family, barely exchanged words, their interactions limited to necessary pleasantries. Ethan's first task was to familiarize himself with his surroundings. The mansion was vast, with numerous rooms, each decorated with exquisite taste and luxury. He wandered through hallways adorned with expensive art and rooms filled with antiques, feeling like an intruder in a world so different from his own. As he explored, Ethan found himself reflecting on his own life. The hardships of the streets, the constant struggle for survival, and how far removed it all seemed in this opulent setting. Despite the comfort and security this temporary life offered, he couldn't shake off the feeling of being an imposter in someone else's story. In the afternoons, Ethan accompanied Lynn to various social events. He was introduced as her son, who had just returned from abroad, a backstory that seemed to satisfy the curiosity of Lynn's affluent friends. Ethan played his part well, engaging in small talk and responding to inquiries with rehearsed answers. However, he couldn't help but feel out of place among the crowd of well-dressed elites, their conversations filled with topics and concerns foreign to his experiences. During these events, Ethan observed the superficial nature of the social interactions around him. Conversations were polite but lacked depth, and relationships seemed built on mutual benefits rather than genuine connections. This realization made him appreciate the straightforward, albeit challenging, life he had led on the streets. In the evenings, the family would gather for dinner, a formal affair where personal chefs prepared exquisite meals. These dinners were quiet, with Lynn and Michael often lost in their thoughts, leaving Ethan to dine in an awkward silence. It was during these moments that Ethan felt the most isolated, surrounded by luxury, but devoid of the warmth and camaraderie he had known in his own world. As the week progressed, Ethan started to understand the complexities of Lynn and Michael's lives. Their wealth and status, envied by many, were merely veils covering lives marked by unfulfilled desires and personal sacrifices. Ethan's perception of wealth and happiness began to shift, realizing that the glittering surface often masked deeper struggles. Despite the challenges, Ethan found moments of genuine connection with Lynn. In the quiet of the night, they would sometimes talk, Lynn sharing stories of her past and Ethan listening, finding parallels in their seemingly disparate lives. These conversations were a solace to Ethan, a reminder that beneath the facades people wear, there are stories of dreams, regrets, and hopes that resonate on a human level. As Ethan lay in his luxurious bed each night, he pondered the lessons he was learning in this unexpected chapter of his life. He had stepped into the role of Ethan out of necessity, but as the days passed, he began to see this experience as a journey of understanding. Understanding others, understanding life's complexities, and, most importantly, understanding himself. Ethan, still adapting to his role as Jay within the wealthy household, found each day to be a revelation. The grandeur of Lynn and Michael's world was striking. Yet it was the undercurrents of this new life that caught his attention the most. He was beginning to understand the facade of perfection that the affluent often displayed and the realities that lay beneath. The mornings were always an elaborate display of luxury. Breakfasts were sumptuous affairs with a variety of choices that overwhelmed Ethan. He watched Lynn and Michael maintain a veneer of domestic normalcy, their interactions careful and measured, devoid of the warmth he had associated with family life. Ethan's afternoons were spent attending various high society functions. He was dressed in fine clothes that felt like costumes and introduced to a slew of people whose names and faces blurred together. At these events, Ethan played the part of Lynn's son, but he couldn't help feeling like an outsider looking in. The conversations around him were laced with business undertakings and social gossip, a language foreign to his ears. Despite the discomfort, Ethan was quick to observe and learn. He noticed how smiles were often just courteous masks and how every handshake seemed like a transaction. This world was about maintaining appearances, where every action was a strategic play in the game of social standing. In the evenings, the family's interactions were minimal, each member retreating to their respective quarters after dinner. Ethan used this time to reflect on his day. The solitude of his luxurious room gave him space to think about his own life, the hardships he had faced, and the stark contrast to the world he was currently inhabiting. Through his conversations with Lynn, Ethan began to see her in a different light. Beneath her polished exterior was a woman who longed for something more than just wealth and status. These moments of vulnerability made Lynn more relatable to Ethan, and a bond, however unlikely, started to form between them. Ethan also had brief interactions with Michael, though they were always formal and guarded. Michael was an enigma, a man who had everything but seemed locked in his own golden cage. Ethan often wondered what lay behind Michael's stoic facade. As the week progressed, Ethan's initial impressions of this new life evolved. He realized that wealth and luxury did not equate to happiness or fulfillment. The opulence that surrounded him was impressive, but it was the glimpses of genuine emotion, the cracks in the perfect facade, that intrigued him the most. This experience was shaping Ethan in ways he hadn't anticipated. He was not just playing a role. He was learning about the complexities of human relationships and the different faces people wear. It was a lesson in understanding the depths beneath surface appearances, a lesson that would stay with him long after his time in the house was over. Ethan's immersion into the lavish lifestyle of Lynn and Michael continued to reveal the stark contrast between his past life and the opulence that now surrounded him. The mansion, with its sprawling gardens, luxurious decor, and array of staff, was like a different universe. He observed the effortless way in which Lynn and Michael navigated this world, their every move reflecting a life of privilege and wealth. As Ethan accompanied them to various high-profile events, he was introduced to the elite circles of the city. He met influential business leaders, politicians, and other figures of high society. Each introduction was a dance of formalities, and Ethan played along, mirroring the etiquette and poise that Lynn and Michael displayed. However, the grandeur of these gatherings did little to mask the underlying tensions and superficial interactions. Conversations were laced with subtle jockeying for status, and alliances were formed and broken with the clink of champagne glasses. Ethan found himself playing a part in a world where appearances were everything, and sincerity was often a secondary concern. The extravagance extended to every aspect of their lives. From designer clothes to gourmet meals, nothing was ordinary. Yet, Ethan noticed the lack of genuine joy in these indulgences. The opulence was a facade, a show put on for the world, devoid of the warmth and simplicity he had known in his life on the streets. This realization made Ethan reflect on his own values and the life he had left behind. He began to question what true wealth meant. Was it the accumulation of material possessions and status, or something more intangible and fulfilling? As Ethan settled into his role, he quickly learned the rules of pretense that governed Lynn and Michael's world. He observed the careful way they presented themselves, the measured smiles, and the rehearsed conversations. It was a world where every word and gesture was calculated for maximum effect. Lynn took it upon herself to coach Ethan on the finer points of social etiquette and how to navigate the complexities of their social sphere. She instructed him on how to converse, what topics to avoid, and how to present himself as the sophisticated and well-traveled Ethan. However, despite his best efforts, Ethan occasionally found himself out of his depth, his street-smart instincts clashing with the expectations of high society. In these moments, he relied on his quick wit and adaptability to maintain the charade. The more time Ethan spent playing this role, the more he understood the weight of the mask that Lynn and Michael wore. The constant need to maintain appearances was exhausting, and Ethan began to see the cracks in their perfect facades. Ethan's role as the son of Lynn and Michael provided him with a front-row seat to the inner workings of their relationship, which, to his surprise, was far from the loving partnership it appeared to be to the outside world. Instead, their marriage was a strategic alliance, meticulously designed and maintained for the sake of appearances and mutual business interests. One evening, after a particularly lavish event, Ethan overheard a conversation between Lynn and Michael that peeled back the layers of their seemingly perfect union. Their words, devoid of affection, were sharp and pragmatic, discussing business deals and social strategies rather than shared experiences or emotional connections. Lynn, in a moment of unguarded frustration, expressed her dissatisfaction with the facade they had to upkeep. "This charade is suffocating," she confessed, her voice laced with a mix of resentment and resignation. Michael, ever the businessman, responded coolly, "It's necessary, Lynn. Our social standing, our businesses, they all hinge on this image we've created. It's not just about us. It's about the empire we're building." Ethan listened, his presence unnoticed, as the conversation revealed the reality of their relationship. A partnership based not on love, but on mutual benefit and shared ambitions. Their marriage was a carefully constructed public persona, a means to an end in their pursuit of power and status. This revelation was a turning point for Ethan. He had entered their world believing it to be a realm of glamour and fulfillment, but what he found was a life of constraints and pretenses. The luxurious lifestyle of Lynn and Michael was a gilded cage, their every move dictated by the demands of their social standing and business endeavors. Ethan began to see Lynn in a new light. Behind her composed exterior was a woman trapped by her own decisions, yearning for a semblance of real connection and freedom. Michael, too, was more than just the head of the household. He was a man driven by ambition, willing to sacrifice personal happiness for the sake of success. This understanding of their unconventional marriage added a layer of complexity to Ethan's experience in their world. He started to question the true cost of wealth and power and the sacrifices one had to make to maintain such a life. The experience was shaping his understanding of what truly mattered in life, challenging his perceptions of happiness and fulfillment. As the week progressed, Ethan found himself increasingly adept at navigating the facade that was Lynn and Michael's life. With each passing day, he grew more comfortable with the charade, his initial apprehension giving way to a sort of detached curiosity about this world and its intricate social dances. At social events, Ethan played his part flawlessly, charming Lynn and Michael's acquaintances with ease. He mastered the art of small talk, learned to laugh at the right moments, and to exhibit just the right amount of interest in the conversations. However, despite his growing ease in this role, Ethan remained acutely aware of the artificiality that underpinned these interactions. The smiles were too perfect, the laughter a little too rehearsed, and every conversation had an underlying current of self-interest. In the midst of this, Ethan observed the dynamics of Lynn and Michael's interactions with their peers. It was a world ruled by unspoken agreements and subtle power plays, where alliances were formed and dissolved with a fluidity that Ethan found both fascinating and disconcerting. He watched as Lynn and Michael navigated these waters with a practiced grace, their every move calculated to maintain their position in this elite society. Yet, despite their outward appearance of control and confidence, Ethan could sense the strain behind their eyes. It was evident in the brief moments when their guard dropped, revealing a glimpse of the fatigue that came with constantly upholding a facade. Ethan's own role in this charade became a source of introspection. He found himself questioning the nature of the relationships he was forming. Were the connections he made any more real than the ones Lynn and Michael had with their peers? Or was he too becoming a part of the superficial world he had initially viewed with such skepticism? These thoughts often occupied Ethan's mind as he lay in his luxurious bedroom each night. The contrast between his life on the streets, where every interaction was raw and real. And this world of pretense was stark. In this opulent setting, Ethan felt a sense of isolation that he had never experienced in the rough but honest life he had known. Navigating the facade of Lynn and Michael's world was a lesson in the complexities of human relationships and societal expectations. It made Ethan reflect on what was truly important in life and the kind of person he wanted to be. As the week drew to a close, Ethan realized that this experience had changed him in ways he had not anticipated, giving him insights into a world that was as fascinating as it was hollow. Despite the inherent deception in his situation, Ethan found himself unexpectedly forming bonds within the facade of his new life. These connections, built under the pretense of him being Ethan, Lynn's son, were complex and layered with unspoken understanding and shared experiences. Lynn, in particular, became more than just the architect of the charade to Ethan. As they spent time together, a genuine rapport developed between them. Lynn often shared snippets of her life, her aspirations, and her regrets in rare moments of vulnerability. For Ethan, these interactions were eye-opening, revealing the multifaceted nature of a woman who was caught between her desires and the role she was compelled to play. Ethan also observed a subtle shift in his interactions with Michael. Although Michael remained largely aloof, there were moments of unexpected camaraderie, especially when discussing business or societal observations. Ethan was surprised to find that he could appreciate Michael's insights, and, at times, even his dry humor. In social settings, Ethan found himself connecting with a few of the guests, especially those who seemed as out of place as he felt. These connections, although superficial in nature, provided Ethan with a sense of belonging in a world that was still largely alien to him. He began to understand that, beneath the surface, many were playing roles, just as he was. However, the most surprising bond Ethan formed was with the household staff. Their interactions were initially formal, but as the days passed, a mutual respect developed. The staff, who were well aware of the family's dynamics, appreciated Ethan's respectful and unassuming nature. In return, they offered him kindness and, on occasion, invaluable insights into the workings of the household. These bonds, formed under the guise of Ethan, were complicated. Ethan was constantly aware that his relationships were built on a foundation of deception. Yet the connections felt real to him. They were a mix of genuine understanding, shared experiences, and, perhaps, a mutual recognition of each other's true selves beneath the roles they were compelled to play. As Ethan navigated these relationships, he grappled with the moral implications of his actions. He was playing a part, but the emotions and connections that were developing felt authentic. This paradox was at the heart of Ethan's experience, highlighting the blurred lines between reality and pretense in human connections. The experience of forming these bonds under false pretenses was a profound one for Ethan. It forced him to confront his ideas about honesty, authenticity, and the nature of relationships. As the week neared its end, Ethan realized that these connections, however they had formed, had impacted him deeply, challenging his perceptions and leaving him with a new understanding of the complexities of human interactions. Ethan, deeply embedded in his role as Lynn and Michael's son, began to unravel the complexities of their family dynamics. The facade of a perfect, affluent family started to crumble, revealing the intricate web of tensions and unspoken agreements that held their household together. He noticed the subtle but constant power play between Lynn and Michael. Their interactions, though polite and often filled with forced laughter, were underpinned by a mutual understanding of maintaining appearances for the sake of their social standing. There was an unspoken agreement between them, a partnership that extended beyond the bounds of a traditional marriage into something more transactional and strategic. Ethan also observed the loneliness that seemed to pervade the house. Despite the grandeur of their home and the busy schedule of social events, There was an unmistakable air of isolation that surrounded both Lynn and Michael. They were like two actors on a stage, playing their parts to perfection, but lacking a genuine connection with each other. As Ethan continued to play his part, he became increasingly aware of the emotional distance and the lack of real warmth in the family. The smiles were a little too practiced, the conversations a bit too calculated. The more he understood their dynamics, the more he realized that the glamorous lifestyle had its own set of chains, binding the family to a set of expectations and roles that left little room for genuine expression. This realization was a turning point for Ethan. He began to see his own role in this charade in a new light, understanding that he, too, was a part of this intricate dance of appearances. As he grappled with this understanding, Ethan started to feel a sense of sympathy for Lynn and Michael, recognizing the sacrifices they had made in pursuit of this meticulously crafted image of familial perfection.
You and Michael, you both always seem so composed, but I sense there's more beneath the surface. Can I ask, what's your story?
Ethan, our marriage, it's not what it appears. We started with love, or at least I thought we did, but over the years, it became more about this. She gestures to the expanse of the room, maintaining this.
That must be hard, living a life that doesn't feel true to who you are.
I used to paint. Did you know art was my life, but I gave it up for this.
What are you two talking about?
Just sharing some old memories with Ethan.
Michael, did you always want this life, the business, the social standing?
Honestly, I don't know anymore. It's like we're actors in a play we never auditioned for.
As Ethan delved deeper into the lives of Lynn and Michael, the ongoing deception began to weigh heavily on him. He had started this charade as a mere means to an end, a way to secure food, shelter, and money. However, as he uncovered the complexities and hidden truths of their lives, his role as Ethan began to feel more like a burden than an act. His struggle was not just about maintaining the lie, but also about the moral implications of his actions. Ethan had developed a sense of empathy for Lynn and Michael, making the deceit increasingly uncomfortable. He found himself caught between the necessity of the charade and the growing guilt over deceiving two people who, despite their flaws and complexities, had shown him a side of life he had never known. Ethan grappled with the duality of his situation. On one hand, he was a part of their world, privy to their vulnerabilities and challenges. On the other, he was an outsider playing a role that wasn't his. This internal conflict was compounded by the genuine moments of connection he had experienced, particularly with Lynn, who had, in moments of openness, treated him with a kindness that went beyond their arrangement. The more he reflected on his situation, the more Ethan questioned the nature of the relationships he was forming. Were they built on a foundation of trust, or were they just as much a facade as the life Lynn and Michael presented to the outside world? These thoughts troubled Ethan, as he struggled to reconcile his growing attachment to the family with the knowledge that it was all built on a lie. As the week progressed, Ethan's internal conflict reached a peak. He was torn between seeing the week through for the sake of the agreement and his desire to come clean about his true identity. The fear of the consequences of revealing the truth loomed large, but so did the guilt and discomfort of living a lie. Ethan's struggle with deception was a crucial part of his journey in an unlikely family. It highlighted the ethical dilemmas one faces when caught in a web of lies, even when those lies are not of one's own making. This subchapter set the stage for Ethan's eventual decision, forcing him to confront the complexities of honesty, integrity, and the human need for connection. In his role as Ethan, Jay witnessed firsthand the burdens that accompanied the wealth and status of Lynn and Michael's world. While their lifestyle was filled with luxury and opulence, he began to see the heavy toll it took on their personal lives and relationships. The vast mansion, with its numerous rooms and extravagant decor, often felt more like a museum than a home. It was maintained meticulously, every item carefully chosen to portray a certain image. However, the house lacked the warmth and comfort of a true family environment. Ethan noticed the quiet, almost eerie atmosphere that pervaded the space, a stark contrast to the lively social events they hosted. As he accompanied Lynn and Michael to various high society functions, Ethan saw the effort it took to maintain their social standing. Every party, every gathering was an exercise in displaying their success and influence. Behind the smiles and handshakes, Ethan sensed the underlying pressure they faced to keep up appearances, to constantly prove their worth in a world where status was everything. He also observed the strain this lifestyle put on Lynn and Michael's relationship. Their conversations often revolved around financial decisions, social strategies, and maintaining their public image. Personal matters seemed secondary, and moments of genuine affection were rare. The weight of their wealth and status seemed to act as a barrier, preventing them from connecting on a deeper, more emotional level. Ethan began to understand that wealth, while providing material comforts, also came with its own set of challenges. It created a world where appearances were paramount, where relationships were often transactional, and where genuine happiness was overshadowed by the need to adhere to societal expectations. This realization was eye-opening for Ethan. It challenged his initial envy of their affluent lifestyle and led him to appreciate the simpler but more authentic life he had known. He started to see that true wealth lay not in material possessions, but in genuine human connections and the freedom to be oneself. The burden of wealth was a critical subchapter in Ethan's journey, highlighting the often overlooked downsides of affluence. It underscored the theme that true happiness and fulfillment cannot be measured by financial success alone, a lesson that Ethan would carry with him as he navigated his own path in life. As the week unfolded, Ethan discovered that the world of Lynn and Michael was not just defined by wealth and appearances, but also by a network of unspoken agreements and secret deals. These were the undercurrents that drove the decisions and dynamics within their household and their social circle. Ethan began to notice the subtle cues and exchanges that occurred during social events and private meetings. Conversations that seemed casual to an outsider were, in fact, carefully coded discussions about business deals and social alliances. He observed how Lynn and Michael navigated these interactions with a deft blend of charm and shrewdness, their every word and gesture calculated to protect and advance their interests. One evening, during a dinner party at the house, Ethan overheard a conversation between Michael and a prominent businessman. The discussion, veiled under the guise of a friendly chat, was actually a negotiation for a significant business venture. Ethan was struck by the ease with which Michael conducted the deal, his affable demeanor masking the keen mind of a strategist. Similarly, Lynn's interactions with other socialites were not just exchanges of pleasantries, but a tactical play in maintaining and expanding their social influence. Ethan watched as she skillfully managed relationships, her conversations laced with implicit understandings and promises, all while maintaining the perfect image of the gracious hostess. Through these observations, Ethan gained insight into the complexities of their world. He realized that the stability and success of Lynn and Michael's life were contingent upon these unspoken agreements and secret deals. Their wealth and status were not merely the result of hard work or luck, but were also maintained through a continuous effort to manage and manipulate the intricate web of relationships and agreements they were a part of. This understanding added another layer to Ethan's perception of Lynn and Michael. He saw them as players in a high-stakes game, where the rules were dictated by power, influence, and the unrelenting pressure to stay ahead. It was a game that required sacrifice, often at the expense of personal happiness and ethical considerations. For Ethan, unspoken agreements and secret deals was a revealing subchapter in his journey, exposing the often hidden mechanisms that power the lives of the elite. It was a world where nothing was as simple as it appeared, and where the true cost of wealth and power was measured in more than just dollars and cents. Ethan's immersion in the lives of Lynn and Michael continued to evoke a spectrum of emotions he had not anticipated. The experience of living as Ethan in the opulent world of wealth and privilege was both exhilarating and disconcerting, stirring feelings that were new and complex. The lavish lifestyle, with its grandeur and abundance, was initially captivating for Ethan. He was exposed to experiences that were worlds apart from his life on the streets. Gourmet meals, extravagant parties, and a level of comfort he had never known. This exposure brought a sense of excitement and wonder, a glimpse into a life that he had only seen from the outside. However, as the days passed, the initial allure began to wane, giving way to deeper, more introspective emotions. Ethan found himself feeling out of place amidst the luxury. The constant need to maintain appearances and engage in superficial conversations left him feeling drained and isolated. He longed for genuine interactions, for connections that were not dictated by social expectations. Ethan also experienced moments of empathy and sadness, particularly as he observed the strained dynamics between Lynn and Michael. Despite their wealth, there was an underlying sense of unhappiness that pervaded their lives. Ethan could sense the sacrifices they had made in their pursuit of success, and it made him question the true value of wealth and status. Amidst this emotional turmoil, Ethan also found moments of unexpected joy and connection. His conversations with Lynn, in particular, brought a sense of closeness and understanding. There were times when they shared genuine laughter and insights, brief escapes from the roles they were playing. These moments were a solace to Ethan, reminding him of the importance of human connection. Ethan's experience in Lynn and Michael's world was a journey through a range of emotions, from awe and excitement to introspection and melancholy. It was a testament to the complexity of life and the multifaceted nature of human experiences. As he navigated this new kind of life, Ethan began to form a deeper understanding of himself and the world around him, learning that true fulfillment often lay beyond material wealth and societal accolades. As Ethan navigated his week within the affluent world of Lynn and Michael, he found himself grappling with an array of conflicted feelings and unexpected attachments. The more he assimilated into their life, the more he was torn between the reality of his situation and the role he had agreed to play. Ethan's relationship with Lynn evolved into something more complex than he had anticipated. Her moments of vulnerability and genuine warmth towards him stirred feelings of attachment and a sense of protectiveness. He found himself genuinely caring for Lynn, sympathizing with her unspoken desires for a life different from the one she was living. This emotional connection was a stark contrast to the initial transactional nature of their agreement, leaving Ethan conflicted about his true role in the household. Similarly, his interactions with Michael, though less frequent and intimate, also led to a sort of reluctant respect. Michael's astuteness in business and the pressures he faced in maintaining their social status made Ethan see him in a different light. While their relationship lacked the depth of his connection with Lynn, Ethan couldn't help but feel a degree of empathy for Michael's own trapped existence in the golden cage they called home. Amidst these growing attachments, Ethan also struggled with his sense of identity. Playing the role of Ethan made him question his own values and beliefs. He was living a lie, yet the emotions and connections he was experiencing felt undeniably real. This duality created an internal conflict as he wrestled with the morality of his actions and their implications on the family he had come to care about. The attachments Ethan formed were further complicated by his awareness of their eventual end. He knew that his time as Ethan was limited, and the thought of leaving behind the bonds he had formed filled him with a sense of sadness and guilt. He was caught in a web of his own making, each day deepening the emotional ties that he knew would have to be severed. Ethan's experience highlighted the complex nature of human relationships and the fine line between deception and genuine connection. His journey through this spectrum of emotions was a crucial part of his growth, forcing him to confront his own understanding of attachment, identity, and the consequences of living a lie. Throughout his time with Lynn and Michael, Ethan experienced moments of genuine connection that transcended the facade of their daily lives. These instances, though fleeting, offered him glimpses into the true essence of the people behind the masks they wore. One such moment occurred unexpectedly with Michael. One evening, after a formal dinner party had concluded, Ethan found Michael alone in the study, looking over some documents. The usual air of authority Michael exuded was absent, replaced by a reflective quietude. Ethan hesitantly joined him, and to his surprise, Michael initiated a candid conversation. They spoke of business life and even touched on personal aspirations. For the first time, Ethan saw a side of Michael that was introspective and almost vulnerable, a stark contrast to his public persona. Similarly, Ethan's interactions with Lynn often led to moments of genuine connection. One afternoon, while discussing arrangements for an upcoming event, their conversation drifted to topics of personal interests and past experiences. Lynn shared stories of her youth, her passion for art, and her dreams before life had taken her down the path of wealth and societal expectations. In these moments, Ethan and Lynn connected not as conspirators in a charade, but as two individuals sharing pieces of their true selves. Even in social settings, amid the superficiality that dominated, Ethan found moments of realness. He encountered individuals who, like him, seemed out of place in the glittering world of high society. These brief interactions, often laden with shared understanding and unspoken acknowledgement of the roles they played, brought a sense of camaraderie and comfort. These genuine connections, though not part of his original plan, became integral to Ethan's experience. They served as reminders that beneath the layers of social standing and pretense, there were real emotions and experiences. These interactions added depth to his understanding of Lynn, Michael, and their world, challenging his initial perceptions and revealing the complexities of their characters. For Ethan, these moments were a poignant contrast to the ongoing deception of his presence in the household. They highlighted the human need for real connection and understanding, underscoring the idea that even in a world built on appearances, authenticity could still find a way to shine through. As the week neared its end, Ethan was unexpectedly thrust into the midst of a family betrayal that shook the foundations of the household. This incident not only intensified his internal conflict, but also exposed the fragile nature of the relationships within the family. It began with an inadvertent discovery. Ethan stumbled upon a series of secretive emails between Michael and a figure from their social circle, revealing plans that would undermine a significant business deal Lynn had been working on. The nature of the betrayal was not just professional, but deeply personal, as it became evident that Michael's actions were driven by motivations that went beyond business interests. Conflicted over what to do with this information, Ethan grappled with his conscience. Revealing the betrayal to Lynn would mean overstepping the boundaries of his role in the household, yet keeping silent felt like complicity in the deceit that was unfolding. The decision was further complicated by his growing empathy for Lynn and the genuine connection they had formed. Eventually, Ethan chose to subtly confront Michael, hoping to understand his reasons. The confrontation was tense, with Michael initially denying the allegations. However, as Ethan presented the undeniable evidence, Michael's facade cracked, revealing a mix of defensiveness and resignation. He justified his actions as necessary maneuvers in their complex world of business and social politics, showing a side of himself that was calculating and ruthlessly ambitious. The revelation of Michael's betrayal cast a shadow over the household. Ethan watched as Lynn grappled with the reality of her husband's actions, her sense of trust shattered. The dynamics of their relationship, already complex, were further strained, leading to heated arguments and a palpable tension in the air. For Ethan, witnessing this betrayal and its aftermath was a sobering experience. It underscored the precariousness of trust and loyalty in a world where personal gains often overshadowed moral values. The incident also reinforced his realization about the true cost of wealth and power. Where personal relationships could be sacrificed on the altar of ambition and success, the betrayal in the household was a pivotal moment in the story, deepening Ethan's understanding of the complexities of human nature and the often hidden struggles that lie beneath the surface of seemingly perfect lives. The revelation of Michael's betrayal had a profound impact on the household, bringing to the surface the pain and fractures of a family built on a foundation of convenience and appearances. For Ethan, witnessing the unraveling of Lynn and Michael's relationship was both distressing and illuminating. In the days following the discovery, the atmosphere in the house was charged with tension and unspoken grievances. Lynn, who had always maintained a composed exterior, struggled to come to terms with the betrayal. Her interactions with Michael became strained and cold, the veneer of their partnership cracking under the weight of deceit. Ethan observed how the betrayal affected not just Lynn and Michael's relationship but the entire household. The staff treaded carefully, their usual routines disrupted by the palpable unease between their employers. The house, once a symbol of grandeur and stability, now felt like a hollow shell, echoing with the remnants of a relationship in turmoil. Amidst this, Ethan found himself in an uncomfortable position. He had inadvertently become a confidant to Lynn, who, in her moments of vulnerability, shared her feelings of betrayal, disappointment, and uncertainty about the future. Ethan offered what comfort he could, but the situation underscored his own precarious role in the household. The experience was a stark reminder to Ethan of the fragility of relationships built on foundations other than genuine affection and trust. He saw how easily the image of a perfect family could shatter, leaving behind the pain of broken promises and unmet expectations. For Ethan, the pain of the broken family he witnessed was a poignant contrast to his own life experiences. It made him reflect on his own values and the kind of relationships he sought in life. The ordeal also reinforced his resolve to leave the world of deceit behind, as he realized that the allure of wealth and status was not worth the emotional cost. The pain of a broken family was a crucial subchapter in Ethan's journey, highlighting the emotional toll of maintaining appearances and the importance of authenticity and honesty in building lasting relationships.
Ethan, you seem miles away. What's on your mind?
I've been thinking about my life, Lynn. Being here, pretending to be someone I'm not. It's made me see things differently.
It's not easy wearing a mask. I know that all too well, but sometimes it can teach us about who we really are.
I used to think success was about money, status, but being here with you and Michael, I've realized it's more about being true to yourself, and I haven't been doing that.
It takes courage to face that truth, Ethan, but it's the first step towards finding who you really are.
When I leave here, things are going to be different. I want to make choices that are true to me, not just what I think I should be doing.
It's a journey worth taking, Ethan, and I believe you'll find what you're looking for.
In the midst of his transformative experience at Lynn and Michael's home, Ethan, known to them as Jay, found himself confronting his own past. The stark contrast between his life on the streets and the world he was currently inhabiting forced him to reflect on his journey and the circumstances that led him to this point. Ethan spent quiet moments in the luxurious room that had been assigned to him, pondering over his life before he became part of Lynn and Michael's world. He thought about the struggles he had faced, the decisions he had made to survive, and the loneliness that had often been his only companion. These reflections brought a mix of emotions, a sense of loss for what could have been, and a newfound appreciation for his resilience and resourcefulness. Being in a household where appearances were paramount and relationships complex, Ethan realized the value of the straightforward, albeit challenging, life he had led. His past, though marked by hardship, was free from the pretense and duplicity he found in Lynn and Michael's world. This realization brought a sense of clarity and acceptance of his background, helping him to reconcile with his past. Ethan also began to understand how his experiences had shaped him. The skills he had honed on the streets, the ability to read people, adapt to situations, and fend for himself, had helped him navigate the challenges of his current situation. This recognition was empowering, allowing Ethan to see his past not just as a series of struggles, but as a journey that had equipped him with unique strengths. Confronting his past also meant dealing with unresolved emotions and questions. Ethan grappled with feelings of abandonment and the lack of familial connections. Being in a family setting, even one as flawed as Lynn and Michael's, stirred a longing in him for a sense of belonging and stability. This subchapter marked a pivotal point in Ethan's journey, as he came to terms with his past and its impact on his present. It was a period of introspection and growth, where Ethan gained a deeper understanding of himself and a more profound appreciation for his resilience and capabilities. During his time with Lynn and Michael, Ethan experienced a profound evolution in his understanding of love. This journey, set against the backdrop of a household where genuine affection seemed scarce, allowed him to explore the many facets of what love truly means. Ethan observed the relationship between Lynn and Michael, a partnership that, on the surface, appeared devoid of traditional romantic love. Yet, as he delved deeper, he began to discern the complex layers of their bond. It was a relationship built on mutual respect, shared ambitions, and an understanding of each other's needs, albeit not expressed in conventional ways. This observation challenged Ethan's preconceived notions of love, showing him that it could manifest in various forms, not always conforming to societal expectations. The interactions with Lynn, in particular, provided Ethan with insights into the emotional aspects of love. Lynn's moment of vulnerability and genuine warmth towards him, though born out of a deceptive situation, revealed a capacity for deep affection and care. Through these interactions, Ethan began to appreciate the nuances of love, the importance of empathy, understanding, and the ability to connect on a human level. Ethan's growing attachment to Lynn, despite the circumstances, made him realize that love could arise in unexpected ways and situations. He found himself genuinely caring for her well-being, a feeling that transcended the initial transactional nature of their arrangement. This realization brought a new depth to his experience as he grappled with feelings that were both surprising and enlightening. Moreover, Ethan's reflections on his own past and the absence of familial love in his life led him to a deeper appreciation of the emotional connections he had formed. However brief they might be, he learned that love was not just a feeling, but an action. The act of showing kindness, offering support, and being there for someone, even in challenging circumstances. Learning the meaning of love was a significant subchapter in Ethan's journey, marking a shift in his understanding of one of life's most profound emotions. It highlighted the complexity of love and its ability to transcend conventional definitions, shaping his perceptions and growth in unexpected ways. Ethan's time in the household revealed the stark reality behind the illusion of perfection that Lynn and Michael had meticulously crafted. This realization was both eye-opening and disconcerting for him, challenging his understanding of what true success and happiness meant. Living amidst their luxurious lifestyle, Ethan was initially awestruck by the apparent flawlessness of their world. The grand house, the high-end cars, the lavish parties, all seemed to epitomize the pinnacle of success. However, as he delved deeper into the family's life, he began to see the cracks in this facade. He noticed the strain and effort it took Lynn and Michael to maintain this image of perfection. The constant socializing, the business dealings, the attention to every detail of their public appearances. It was a relentless pursuit that left little room for genuine joy or relaxation. Their smiles were often forced, their laughter rehearsed, and their conversations superficial, all performed for the benefit of an ever-watchful social circle. Ethan also observed the impact of this pursuit on their personal lives. The need to appear perfect to the outside world created a barrier to real emotional connection, both within the family and in their relationships with others. There was an unspoken loneliness and longing that Ethan sensed in both Lynn and Michael, a longing for something more authentic than the roles they played. This realization led Ethan to reflect on his own life and values. He began to understand that the pursuit of perfection, especially one that is focused on external appearances and societal approval, is often an empty endeavor. It can lead to a life where appearances matter more than genuine human connections and personal fulfillment. The illusion of perfection was a crucial subchapter in Ethan's journey, highlighting the often overlooked downside of a life dedicated to maintaining appearances. It was a poignant reminder that true happiness and success are not found in material wealth or societal acclaim, but in the authenticity of one's life and the quality of one's relationships. Through his experiences with Lynn and Michael, Ethan came to a profound realization about the true meaning of family. This understanding was a stark contrast to the initial perception he had upon entering their world, where family seemed defined by social status and appearances. Ethan had observed the intricate dynamics of Lynn and Michael's relationship, a complex mix of business partnership and cohabitation, devoid of the traditional warmth associated with family. However, as he spent more time with them, he began to see glimpses of a deeper connection, moments of mutual support and understanding, albeit rare and often overshadowed by their individual ambitions. These observations, coupled with his own experiences of loneliness and lack of familial bonds, led Ethan to understand that family is not solely defined by blood relations or traditional structures. Instead, it is characterized by the connections that are formed through shared experiences, mutual respect, and emotional support. He reflected on the moments of genuine connection he shared with Lynn, the understanding that grew between them, despite the deception that brought them together. These interactions, though born out of a charade, had fostered a sense of familial bond, a realization that family can be found in unexpected places and relationships. Ethan also contemplated his own life, recognizing the absence of a traditional family but acknowledging the various relationships he had formed along the way, connections with friends, mentors, and even strangers who had offered him support and guidance. These relationships, he realized, were his version of family, providing him with a sense of belonging and identity. This subchapter marked a significant point in Ethan's journey as he reconciled his past experiences with his current situation. He understood that the essence of family lies in the bonds of love, care, and support that individuals provide for each other, regardless of the conventional definitions and societal expectations. The realization of what family means was a transformative experience for Ethan, reshaping his understanding of one of the most fundamental human connections and highlighting the diverse forms that family can take. As the week approached its conclusion, the tension in the household escalated, with the impending end of Ethan's charade casting a shadow over the already strained atmosphere. Ethan, now deeply entangled in the complexities of Lynn and Michael's lives, faced the daunting prospect of revealing his true identity and the inevitable fallout that would follow. The charade had started as a simple act of deception for Ethan, but it had evolved into something much more complicated. The relationships he had formed, especially with Lynn, had taken on a significance he hadn't anticipated, making the prospect of leaving not just a logistical challenge, but an emotional ordeal. Lynn, oblivious to Ethan's true identity, had grown increasingly attached to him, seeing in him the son she never had. Her affection and trust in Ethan added to his inner turmoil. Revealing the truth threatened to break the bond they had formed, potentially causing her deep emotional pain. Michael, on the other hand, remained somewhat aloof, but Ethan's presence had brought a subtle change in the household dynamics. Ethan wondered how Michael would react to the revelation, considering his own guarded nature and the secrets he harbored. As the final day approached, Ethan struggled with how to handle the situation. He contemplated whether to quietly slip away, leaving behind a note of explanation, or to confront the situation head-on and reveal his true identity. Each option presented its own set of consequences, both for him and the family he had come to know. The tension was not just about the end of his role as Ethan, but also about the unraveling of the carefully constructed world Lynn and Michael had built. Ethan's departure would remove the facade that had temporarily bound them together, potentially exposing the underlying fractures in their relationship and their individual struggles. The impending end of the charade was a pivotal subchapter in the narrative, capturing the heightened emotional stakes and the complex interplay of relationships. It set the stage for the dramatic conclusion of Ethan's journey, highlighting the impact of his decisions and the inevitable consequences of deception. The aftermath of Ethan's revelation and the ensuing confrontation between Lynn and Michael led to a visible fracture in the facade of their household. The once immaculate image they had presented to the world was now marred by the reality of their strained relationships and personal disillusionments. In the days following the argument and Ethan's confession, the atmosphere in the house became markedly different. The routines continued, but there was a palpable sense of discomfort and awkwardness. The staff moved about more quietly, and the usual vibrancy that the house once held had diminished significantly. Lynn, deeply hurt by Ethan's deception, retreated into herself, her interactions with both Ethan and Michael becoming minimal and strained. The sense of betrayal she felt was evident in her demeanor, a mix of sadness and a sense of resignation to the deceit that had infiltrated her life. Her relationship with Michael, already fragile, seemed to bear the additional strain of Ethan's revelation, widening the emotional gap between them. For Michael, the revelation brought a sense of cynicism. He appeared more withdrawn. His conversations with Ethan and Lynn reduced to the bare essentials. It was as if Ethan's deception had confirmed his underlying belief in the superficiality of the relationships in their world. Ethan, caught in the midst of this fractured facade, grappled with feelings of guilt and responsibility. He had come into their lives as a deceiver, and now he witnessed the repercussions of his actions. The connections he had formed under false pretenses now seemed tainted, leaving him to question the authenticity of his experiences and the impact he had on the family. This subchapter was a poignant reflection on the consequences of living a life based on appearances and the inevitable cracks that appear when the truth comes to light. The once seamless facade of Lynn and Michael's life was now showing its true, fractured nature, a reminder of the fragility of relationships built on foundations of deceit and unspoken truths. A fractured facade set the stage for the final chapters of Ethan's journey, highlighting the transformative impact of his presence in the household and the inevitable process of facing reality when illusions shatter. The tension within the household reached a boiling point as Ethan drew to a close. The accumulated pressures and unspoken truths that had been simmering beneath the surface of Lynn and Michael's meticulously constructed world began to erupt, leading to conflicts and confrontations that would change the dynamics of their household forever. One evening, a heated argument broke out between Lynn and Michael, with Ethan inadvertently caught in the middle. The argument, sparked by a seemingly minor issue, quickly escalated, unearthing deeper grievances and resentments. Lynn accused Michael of being consumed by his business dealings and neglecting their relationship, while Michael retorted with accusations of Lynn's unrealistic expectations and her inability to appreciate the life they had built. Ethan, witnessing this raw display of emotion, saw the facade of their perfect life crack wide open. The argument laid bare the underlying unhappiness and dissatisfaction that both Lynn and Michael felt despite their wealth and social status. It was a moment of painful honesty, revealing the chasm that had developed between them over the years. During the confrontation, Ethan faced his dilemma head on. He realized that continuing the charade would only add to the household's troubles. The weight of his deception, coupled with the escalating tension between Lynn and Michael, compelled him to come clean about his true identity. Ethan's confession was met with shock and betrayal, particularly from Lynn, who felt deeply hurt by the revelation. The sense of trust and connection she had developed with Ethan shattered, leaving her feeling deceived and vulnerable. Michael, while also taken aback, reacted more with resignation, as if Ethan's deceit was just another disappointment in a long line of disillusionments. The confrontation marked a turning point in the story. It not only exposed the cracks in Lynn and Michael's relationship, but also forced Ethan to confront the consequences of his actions. The idealized image of the family he had been part of was shattered, replaced by the reality of their fractured relationships and unfulfilled desires. Conflicts and confrontations was a crucial subchapter in an unlikely family, bringing the underlying issues to the forefront and setting the stage for the resolution of Ethan's journey. It highlighted the inevitable fallout of living a lie and the painful process of facing the truth.
Ethan, what are you doing? Are you leaving us?
Yeah, Lynn, I've made a decision. It's time for me to go. Staying here under these pretenses, it's not right for any of us.
I had hoped you'd become a part of our lives, Ethan, but I can see the burden this charade has placed on you.
It is more Lynn. My real name is Jay. I'm not who I said I was. Came here out of desperation, but I didn't expect to feel.
Jay, so all this time it's been a lie.
Listen, I'm so sorry, Lynn. I never meant to hurt you or Michael, but I've learned so much here about life, about myself. You've taught me more than you can imagine.
I don't know what to say, Jay. This is a lot to take in, but I do see the change in you, and that's real, isn't it?
It is, Lynn.
Yeah.
And I promise to take this experience and make something positive out of it. Oh, that's both of us.
Then go, Jay. Find your path, and thank you for the honesty, at least in the end.
The climactic breakdown in the household marked the culmination of the tensions and conflicts that had been building throughout Ethan's time as Ethan. The revelation of his true identity and the ensuing emotional turmoil led to a final dramatic confrontation that brought all the underlying issues to the surface. In the days following Ethan's decision to leave, the atmosphere in the house was charged with a sense of impending finality. Lynn and Michael, both grappling with their own emotions and the fallout of Ethan's deception, found themselves in a final, explosive argument that laid bare the depth of their discontent. The confrontation was intense and emotional. Accusations and grievances that had been simmering for years were voiced openly, with Lynn expressing her deep sense of betrayal and loneliness in the marriage. She confronted Michael about his business dealings, his emotional distance, and the role he played in creating the facade they lived behind. Michael, in turn, aired his frustrations about the pressures of maintaining their social status and the sacrifices he had made for their lifestyle. He expressed his own sense of entrapment within the life they had built, a life that he felt was dictated more by societal expectations than by their personal desires. Ethan, witnessing this breakdown, felt a profound sense of guilt and responsibility. His role in their lives had inadvertently acted as a catalyst, bringing the long-standing issues in their marriage to a head. The confrontation was painful to observe, but it also brought a sense of clarity and truth that had been missing in the household. The breakdown was a turning point for all involved. For Lynn and Michael, it was an opportunity to confront the reality of their relationship and to decide whether to continue living behind the facade or to make a change. For Ethan, it was a moment of realization about the impact one person can have on the lives of others and the importance of living with honesty and integrity. The climactic breakdown was a powerful and emotional subchapter, marking the end of Ethan's journey in the household. It highlighted the inevitable consequences of living a life based on deception and the possibility of redemption and change when the truth is finally faced. In the aftermath of the climactic breakdown, the household found itself in a state of quiet reflection and acceptance. The revelations and confrontations had laid bare the realities beneath the surface, forcing each member to reckon with the consequences of their actions and decisions. For Lynn and Michael, the aftermath was a time of introspection. The raw honesty of their final confrontation had exposed the deep fissures in their relationship. In the days that followed, there was a sense of tentative peace between them, a mutual understanding that things could not continue as they had. The facade of the perfect marriage had been shattered, and they were left to consider the future of their relationship and what it might look like if built on more honest foundations. Ethan, having revealed his true identity as Jay, faced the aftermath with a mix of regret and relief. His departure from the household was imminent, and he spent his remaining time there in a state of contemplation. The experience had been transformative, teaching him valuable lessons about honesty, empathy, and the complexities of human relationships. He acknowledged the pain he had caused, but also recognized the growth he had undergone during his time with Lynn and Michael. The household staff, who had been silent observers to the unfolding drama, also adapted to the new reality. Their roles remained the same, but there was a newfound understanding and a sense of solidarity among them. They had witnessed the vulnerability and humanity of their employers, and it had changed the dynamic of the household. The aftermath of the revelations was a period of adjustment for everyone involved. It was a time to come to terms with the truths that had been revealed and to decide how to move forward. For Lynn and Michael, it meant reevaluating their relationship and priorities. For Ethan, it was about taking the lessons he had learned and applying them to his own life as he prepared to step back into the world outside. Acceptance and moving forward marked a critical phase in the narrative, symbolizing the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the capacity for change in the face of truth and honesty. As Ethan prepared to leave the opulent world of Lynn and Michael, he sought to find closure, not just for himself, but also for the family he had come to know under false pretenses. The revelations and the ensuing emotional upheaval had left open wounds, and Ethan felt a responsibility to help heal them in whatever way he could before his departure. Ethan's first step towards closure involved a heartfelt conversation with Lynn. He found her in the garden, a place where they had shared many genuine moments. There, amidst the serene backdrop, Ethan expressed his sincere apologies for the deception and the turmoil it caused. He acknowledged the bond they had formed and thanked Lynn for the kindness she had shown him. Lynn, still grappling with the betrayal but touched by Ethan's honesty, forgave him, recognizing the complexity of his situation and the sincerity in his remorse. With Michael, the conversation was more subdued but equally significant. Ethan thanked Michael for his hospitality and expressed his admiration for his business acumen and resilience. Michael, in a rare moment of openness, shared his reflections on the situation, acknowledging the lessons he had learned about trust and the value of genuine relationships. Ethan also took time to bid farewell to the household staff who had been kind and supportive throughout his stay. He expressed his gratitude to them, acknowledging the crucial role they played in the household and the unique challenges they faced in their positions. Finding closure was not just about saying goodbye. It was about leaving on a note of mutual respect and understanding. Ethan hoped that his parting words would bring some comfort and help pave the way for healing and reconciliation in the household. As he walked out of the gates of the mansion, Ethan felt a sense of closure and a readiness to move forward. He had entered the house as a deceiver, but he was leaving it having learned valuable lessons about life, relationships, and himself. This chapter of his life was closing, but it had left an indelible mark on his journey, shaping the person he would become. Finding closure was a poignant subchapter in Ethan's story, highlighting the importance of acknowledging mistakes, seeking forgiveness, and the healing power of honest communication. Having found closure with Lynn, Michael, and the household, Ethan stood at the threshold of a new beginning. The experience of living among them, under the guise of Ethan, had profoundly changed him. He stepped out of the grand mansion, not just as a runaway seeking his next shelter, but as someone who had gained a deeper understanding of life, relationships, and himself. Ethan's first steps into his new beginning were filled with a mix of uncertainty and optimism. The money he received from Lynn, though earned under false pretenses, provided him with a means to start afresh. He decided to use it judiciously, not for short-term pleasures, but as a stepping stone to a more stable and honest future. One of Ethan's immediate goals was to find legitimate work. His experience in the mansion, while deceptive, had taught him valuable skills, adaptability, communication, and an understanding of complex social dynamics. He sought employment that could utilize these skills, aiming for positions that offered a sense of purpose and growth. Ethan also committed to pursuing his education. His interactions with Lynn and Michael had exposed him to a world of knowledge and culture, igniting a desire to learn and expand his horizons. He enrolled in night classes, determined to complete his education and open up new opportunities for himself. On a personal level, Ethan sought to build genuine relationships. The bond he had formed with Lynn, though based on a lie, had shown him the value of authentic connections. He approached new relationships with honesty and openness, seeking out people who shared his values and aspirations. Ethan's new beginning was not without its challenges. He faced moments of doubt and setbacks as he navigated his way through this new phase of life. However, the lessons he had learned from his time with Lynn and Michael about integrity, resilience, and the complexity of human emotions served as a guiding light. New beginnings for Ethan marked a significant turning point in his narrative. It was a chapter of growth and self-discovery, showcasing his transition from a life of deception to one of authenticity and purpose. It symbolized the hope and potential that comes with embracing change and taking control of one's destiny. In the wake of Ethan's departure and the revelations that had come to light, Lynn and Michael were left to confront the future of their relationship and the life they had built together. The facade they had maintained for so long had crumbled, leaving them to face the reality of their situation and make critical decisions about their path forward. Lynn, having experienced the pain of betrayal and the unveiling of her true desires through her interactions with Ethan, found herself at a crossroads. She realized that the life of luxury and status she had pursued and maintained with Michael had come at the cost of her personal happiness and fulfillment. This understanding led her to reevaluate her priorities and what she truly wanted in life. After much introspection, Lynn decided to seek a more authentic existence. She began to explore her passion for art again, reconnecting with a part of herself that she had long suppressed. She also initiated honest and open conversations with Michael about their relationship, expressing her need for change and a more genuine connection between them. Michael, on his part, had his own revelations following the breakdown of their carefully constructed world. He recognized the toll that their lifestyle and his business pursuits had taken on their personal lives. Confronted with Lynn's desire for change, he found himself reflecting on his own values and the kind of life he wanted to lead. Together, Lynn and Michael embarked on a journey of resolution. They agreed to redefine their relationship, moving away from the transactional nature of their marriage to explore a more authentic partnership. This process was not without its difficulties, as years of emotional distance and unspoken truths had to be navigated. The couple also made decisions about their social life and business dealings, choosing to step back from the relentless pursuit of status and wealth. They sought to create a life that was more reflective of their true selves, focusing on meaningful pursuits and genuine relationships. Lynn and Michael's resolution was a significant subchapter in the narrative, marking a turning point in their lives. It highlighted the possibility of change and growth, even in the most entrenched situations, and the importance of honesty and self-reflection in forging a fulfilling life. After leaving the opulent life of the household, Ethan found himself contemplating the concepts of belonging and identity. His time as Ethan had been a period of pretending to be someone he wasn't, yet it had ironically led him to a more profound understanding of who he truly was. He realized that identity was not just shaped by external circumstances or the roles one plays, but was a culmination of one's experiences, choices, and the values one holds dear. Ethan's reflections on belonging were influenced heavily by his experiences in the household. He had witnessed firsthand how Lynn and Michael, despite their wealth and status, had struggled with a sense of belonging in their own lives. This observation made Ethan appreciate the connections he had formed in his life, even in the most unlikely of circumstances. He recognized that belonging is not about fitting into a prescribed role or societal expectation, but about finding spaces and people where one's true self is accepted and valued. This subchapter also explored Ethan's realization of the importance of genuine connections. The relationships he formed under the guise of deception had taught him the value of authenticity and honesty in building lasting bonds. He understood that true belonging comes from relationships that are based on trust, empathy, and mutual respect. As Ethan moved forward, he carried with him the lessons learned from his time with Lynn and Michael. He approached new relationships with a sense of openness and honesty, seeking out people in communities where he could be his authentic self. His experiences had taught him that the essence of belonging lies in being true to oneself and in the connections formed with others based on that authenticity.